Yes, this is why I love Asagi. Yo, you guys, this is Blacklist to the Abyss, and this is my review for Strike the Blood Episode 8. And this one starts off where the last one ended. Kojo, he starts fighting Alcuvera, and he almost gets hit by this blast. Sayaka comes in to protect him, though, with her sword thing. Apparently it's called the Kokarine, but it can nullify attacks just like Hiragi's spear can, but it can also create barriers, and she uses those barriers as offense. Her impossible / very difficult to break barriers make her sword more solid than any other, according to her. So she cuts through one of Naguvera's legs, and she jumps up and tries to pierce its head, but it creates this repulsive field barrier, according to Vatler. And he says that the Kokarine severs the spatial connection of whatever it touches. Therefore, Naguvera decided to use a barrier to stop it from making impact with it. That way it wouldn't get itself, pierced through. Because Naguvera is, this ultimate weapon, and apparently it adapts to its opponents. So it just gets stronger and stronger the more it's attacked. So it's pretty strong. It ends up attacking Sayaka back, and Kojo saves her. He ends up getting cut on the leg, though, but he doesn't lose control of his powers. So I guess that only happens when he loses more blood, I guess. But I guess he needs to lose a certain amount of blood in order to lose control. But after this, he uses Regulus' arm, and he just destroys the area pretty much. And him, Sayaka, and Naguvera all get sent down to the lower levels of the subflow. And two of them, they don't know where Naguvera is at the moment. They kind of lost track of it as they were falling. So they start walking, trying to find it. And Sayaka trips and falls on top of Kojo. Usually it's the guy that falls on top of the girl, but this time it was switched around. But that doesn't stop that doesn't stop Kojo from groping her. But he ends up apologizing for it and asking her if she's okay, because back when he was talking to Hiragi on the phone last episode, she apparently told him that she's afraid of being touched by men. So she kind of has this form of androphobia. And why she has that fear, we don't really know. But what happened to her in her past and everything might be an arc later on the series, who knows. Probably stuff that happens the anime won't cover it. That's what I'm trying to say. The anime is not going to cover it. If it has happened already, it's in the light novel. It's not going to be animated this season. If it hasn't happened already, then it might happen in the future. But after that little discussion they have, where Sayaka says, everything's fine, whatever, seawater starts coming in because they're in the low levels of the subflow, which means they're underwater. So seawater starts falling in, and before we see what they do, we end up going to Asagi. She's working on deciphering the text and stuff with how to control Naguvera, and we see her eyes glow red. Now we've seen this before. This happens a lot of the time when she's on a computer, when she's typing and everything. But I never really thought anything of it. I thought that maybe it was just like the reflection of the screen on her eyes, maybe, and that her eyes weren't legitimately lighting up, but they are legitimately lighting up. So maybe she's not like a normal human either. Well, she's obviously not normal because she's like super smart and a hacker and all that stuff. But maybe she's like some supernatural type of person as well. Who knows? Might be something it's definitely going to come up later at some point. People's eyes don't normally just glow red, but eventually that'll happen. Just like with Sayaka's past, eventually we'll find out about it. But after this, we go to Hiragi, and she takes down a couple Tyrian throats with her bare hands, and she ends up fighting Christoph Gardos. And we see here in the room that they were in that there's actually an army of Nalakuvera, so there's not just one. And Gardos says that he doesn't need to fight Lost Warlord directly. All he has to do is destroy Warlord's Warlord's domain, and that'll force Lost Warlord to break the treaty. And obviously that's not a good thing, so Hiragi starts to fight with him. She uses this art called Key Calm. So those are the techniques that she was using before during the fight with Eustache Rudolph. She uses that one technique. Apparently it's called Pulsation. She uses that, and she uses this flying knee, which she calls Resonant Thunder. And they end up going above to the deck. Once they get out there, Yase actually uses wind magic, or wind air current manipulation, whatever you want to call it, to give Hiragi her spear. So she catches it. And Gardos actually mentioned something about Far East Magic District. So I guess that's kind of a confirmation of what I said last week about well, it was already technically confirmed, but there are different types of magic. I think one of them that was like Druid magic and something like that. Well, here we have Far East magic, whatever that means. But she gets her spear, and as soon as she gets her spear, she does a recitation thing while holding the spear. I, a sword shaman of the Lion King organization, blah blah blah, and she cuts off one of Gardos' arms. She doesn't necessarily beat him though. She won the battle, but she lost the. Well, not really, because but the point the point I'm trying to make is that Asagi ends up deciphering how to control Nalakuvera. So these Terrathopes show up with her and Nagisa, and Gardos leaves, and he controls Nalakuvera. And after this, we go back to Kojo and Sayaka. They reach a dead end, and Kojo, he can't just bust his way through using Regulus' arm because there's all this water around. Water and electricity don't mix. So he turns around. Also Sayaka, I forgot her reasoning, but she can't use her sword, Kokarin. I think she said like there was enough space or something like that, but she can't use that. So then they turn around and start to leave. But Kojo notices that she's wet, so he gives her his jacket. And after she gets his jacket, she starts to think about how they can get out, and she remembers that Hiragi is the medium for Regulus' arm. And that's when she starts to consider the idea of becoming a medium for one of his familiars. And she just starts talking to him, and it was kind of funny because she phrases things really weirdly. She says, she talks about how she's big, and Kojo he interprets that as like she's talking about how big her boobs are, which doesn't fit with her personality. There's no reason why she would do that, but Kojo thinks of that anyway. And it turns out no, she's actually talking about her height and how she's so tall back at the Lion King organization, at the God Forest or whatever it's called. I don't really remember. She would, when it came to carrying all the girls, she would be the one that had to do it because she was the biggest. And then she actually hugs Kojo and tells him that it was actually kind of cool having him carry her. That he was actually cool being the person that's being carried this time. And she says that in order to thank him, she will let him drink her blood, which is just an excuse, really. It's just an excuse. But at the same time, it is pretty much their only way of getting out, so maybe not. But she's probably being just a little tsundere with that. But she ends up. This is the. I was fine with that stuff, but she starts talking about like whether she's good enough or not. The hug itself, the hug plus asking if she's good enough for him to suck her blood or drink her blood. That I think it's kind of going too far. I think she's changing too much too quickly. But I was fine with everything up until the hug. But at that point, it kind of just they went a little too far. I think she should have stuck with just proposing the idea of sucking her blood so that they can get out and not hugging him and then trying to be tsundere about it afterwards and all that. I just think they went a little too far with that, but it's not really too big a deal. Kojo, he ends up sucking her blood then, and I don't really think it was as impactful as it was with Hiragi, because they showed more in terms of like, they showed more of Kojo. Now when Kojo sucked Sayaka's blood in this episode, we didn't even really see him. Like, we saw his reflection on the water. Then, like that, we barely saw him. It was focused entirely on Sayaka, and I think that they should have focused both on Sayaka and on Kojo, not just on her. So I feel like it's less impactful, but it's still a nice scene. I guess I could call it nice, but after that, we see Vatler talking with Yaze, and we learn from Vatler that Yaze is an observer of some sort, and apparently it's taboo for him to intervene directly in the battle that's going on, which is interesting because Hiragi is an observer for the Lion King organization, and it's not taboo for her to intervene directly. As a matter of fact, it's what she should be doing. Same thing with Sayaka. So the group that Yaze is a part of is clearly different than the Lion King organization. I guess they're more of a group that likes to stay in the shadows. But after that, we end up seeing Kojo's new familiar shoot into the air and all that stuff. Yaze sees it, Vatler sees it, and after that, we end up going to Gardos and Hiragi. He leaves, and there's two Terrierthropes that showed up with Asagi and Nagisa. They try to attack Hiragi, but Natsuki takes care of them easy. And she ends up thanking Hiragi for everything she's been doing so far, and she takes Asagi and Nagisa and leaves. Hiragi decides to go help Kojo, but then she gets a call from Yaze, and he tells her about this plan that Asagi came up with. She ended up, we find this out later in the episode, but I'll just say it now, why not? She added, while she was deciphering the commands in order to control Nakuvera, she ended up adding a command in of her own, where if they play this voice file inside the command unit for Nakuvera, I guess the queen or the king, the one that orders all the unmanned drones around, the one that Gardos gets in. If they play the voice file in that, then it will initiate a self-destruct sequence in all the Nakuvera after they've tried to repair themselves and recover. And that's how they end up beating them. But before I get to that, Kojo and Sayaka managed to get out from the lower levels of the subfloat. And apparently he says that his familiar did more damage than he ordered it to. He only wanted it to get rid of the debris and everything, but it ended up causing that big crater. So that means that even though his familiar has accepted him as a vampire, he still can't control it that well. And I would assume that the same went for Regulus Arm before, but now that he has sucked another girl's blood, Regulus Arm is probably more willing to listen and do what he wants to, therefore he can probably control Regulus Arm better now. We end up finding out that the name of his new familiar, it's this fire, flame, horse type thing, like how Regulus Arm was a lightning lion. So this new familiar, Al Nasol Minium, is a fire horse. And it's apparently the 9th familiar, which means that he has at least 7 more. And I don't think that he'll need to suck the blood of 7 more girls. I think that's kind of... I would not like it if that were the case. I think it's kind of silly to have these familiars just be lined up in order and say, like, oh, I need 1 girl. Well, I need 2. I need 3, 4, 5. So I think it's just kind of stupid. I think they should all... I think that with, like, maybe... I don't think he should get another familiar with the 3rd girl whose blood he sucks. I think it should be like, well, that would just make it as far as the story goes, it probably would be better for him to not. It would be better for him to get another familiar when he sucks to the blood of his third girl. But I think that as far as how natural and realistic it seems, it would be best if like it wasn't that easy and it actually skipped a girl, so the third girl doesn't get him a new familiar, but the fourth girl gets him like 2 or 3 or something like that. That way it doesn't seem so simple, like another one girl equals new familiar, you know? But that's probably what they're going to end up doing, unfortunately. Um, but they end up fighting again with Naakuvera and stuff after this because Gardos is inside the command unit. And this is about the time when Hiragi shows up, and it gets kind of awkward because she sees Sayaka wearing Kojo's jacket, and combined with the fact that he got a new familiar, Hiragi can kind of figure out what exactly happened. But she puts that stuff to the side so that they can focus on Gardos and all the Naakuveras. And Kojo uses Regulus' arm to try and destroy the main Naakuvera along with the others, but it doesn't work because according to Gardos, they've adapted. Like I said before, they learn and they adapt to their opponents, and they've adapted to Regulus' arm now, so it's not going to do as much. Then he tries Al Nasominium again, and that doesn't work either. And all the Naakuveras that he did destroy the first, well, I guess it was technically the second time he used Minium, they all recover as well. And that's when Hiragi mentions to them about, you know, when they recover, they'll self-destruct as long as we play this voice file. So then that's when Sayaka gets serious. She changes her Kokarin, her sword, into one of the 6 demon-conquering bows. Then she does some type of Quincy thing where she just takes this little like pin or whatever, and it just turns into this long blue bow, a blue arrow, and she shoots it into the air, and it ends up forming this huge magic circle-like thing in the sky. And then a bunch of arrows just form on this magic circle and fall down, and they hit all of the Naakuveras, and then they just stop working. I think specifically Gardos said it was like jamming their signals or something like that. But after they all stop moving, Kojo attacks with Regulus' arm. That doesn't do anything. But then he combines the attack of Regulus' arm with the attack of Al Nasominium. He doesn't legitimately combine them like Valor did. He just has them attack at the same time. But that's enough to take out Gardos. He steps out of the Naakuvera and he tries to take out Hiragi. She gets past him though. Plays the voice file, and they all crumble, and all the Naakuvera crumble to pieces, while Gardos ends up getting Toma-style punched by Kojo. Because I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but a lot of people compare Strike the Blood to Index because they're really similar, and especially in terms of like just the amount of groups and different abilities and things like that. But the way Kojo beats his opponents is also similar to Index because in the end, Toma doesn't have any special abilities other than the Imagine Breaker, so whenever he beats someone, it's with a punch to the face. And even though Kojo has special abilities, he still beats all of his opponents with a punch to the face. He did it with Eustache Rudolph, and now he's doing it with Gardos. But that's how the war, as Gardos wants to call it, ends. And after that, Hiragi confronts Sayaka and Kojo about how he drank her blood. And they try to explain, you know, with the way the circumstances were, it's like we kind of didn't have a choice. And she says, "Oh, okay, you know, it's fine. I'm not angry. I was just worried that he forced himself onto you and tried to overpower you and suck your blood that way." But but it turns out she does actually kind of have an issue with it. She gives him this look and says, you know, "Oh well, when you drank my blood, you said I was cute and all this stuff and all this stuff." So. Well, not all this stuff. That's pretty much all she said, but it's clear she does actually have an issue with it. She's jealous, kind of. And after this, we end up seeing Rattler again, and he's talking with this girl, Paper Noise. That's her code name, I guess. Or maybe it's her title. Title is in like sword shaman, war dancer, stuff like that. That's probably just a code name, actually. He calls her Paper Noise, and apparently she's the third leader of the Lion King organization. And judging from her uniform, she actually goes to Kojo's and Asagi's school. So we're definitely going to be seeing more of her. She has brown twin tails that go past her shoulders. So I'm sure I'm sure we'll notice her the next time we see her, if we do see her. She might have a different hairstyle though, to try to hide her identity in case anyone sees her. But I'm sure she'll show up later. She ends up what the reason she's there though is because Rattler, he actually requested that an embassy be formed on Itogami Island, a Warlord's Domain embassy, and he's going to be the ambassador. And the Lion King organization actually approved it, so he's going to be sticking around on Itogami Island for a while longer. But that's how the main part of the episode ends. After that, we have the ending, and then after the ending, we see this scene with Asagi and Kojo. Asagi is laying in this hospital bed, and she wakes up. She begins to talk to Kojo about the situation, how things ended. There's this little comment about how messed up he is and all. He smells like fish and stuff, and he makes up this lie on the spot. That's an obvious lie about how he heard that she was kidnapped, so he ran and tried to save her, but fell in the ocean or something like that. It was something really stupid that he just came up with on the spot, but it was an obvious lie. But he gets up to get her water, and as he's walking back, she tells him, like, hey, look at my earrings for a second. And as soon as he leans in to look at her earrings, she kisses him, which is awesome because unlike some anime heroines, she's actually making progress, good progress. She's not just keeping her feelings bottled up and, just sitting there in the corner being jealous as he gets more development with Hiragi and Sayaka, So I actually like Asagi as a heroine. I mean, not the main heroine, because that's Hiragi, and she's also not useless either. And she pretty much defeated Nagakubera. But I'm really liking Asagi. But there's a little this scene in the episode ends up ending with a little bit of comedy. Kojo has this lump in his face with his nostrils flared and everything, and his nose starts to bleed. That's when Nagisa walks in. She's like, wait, whoa, what's going on, Kojo-kun? And then we end up seeing Hiragi in the doorway, and she's mad too. And she's like, you know what? Whatever. I don't even care anymore. And then we end up seeing the preview for the next episode, and that's going to be the Angel in Flames arc. And we see this white-haired girl from the opening. There are actually two white-haired girls in the opening. One has long hair and one has short hair. And the one in the preview is the one with the short hair. So this is obviously going to be the arc where we see those two characters. They're the last two characters in the opening that we haven't seen. And they have to be in this arc because, like I said a few reviews ago, this series is getting 24 episodes, and this opening is probably just going to cover 12 or 13, like most anime do. They change the opening halfway through, and there's no point in putting people in the opening that aren't going to show up until after the new opening starts to play. And so, though I guess some anime do that, like Kuroko no Basket's first season, with with Murasaki Bara and Akashi, but Dakara Boko wa Ichiga Dekanai did that too. They had a bunch of different characters that never even showed up in the anime at all. But whatever. Medaka Box kind of did it with this second. Okay, I'm getting off topic. And the point is that the next arc starts next week in the next episode, and we see the rest of the people in the opening that we haven't seen, specifically the two white-haired girls. But that's it for this review. I really like this episode, and I guess I'll give it a 9 out of 10. Why not? I was going to give it an 8.5, but might as well give it a 9. I mean, Vatler's forming an embassy and becoming the ambassador, so he's going to be sticking around. Uh, we got a new familiar from Kojo, some development with him and Sayaka, development with him and Asagi, the defeat of the main villain, main antagonist of the arc. We learn a little bit about Yaze. There's a lot of stuff that happened in this episode, so I'll say it was great. But yeah, that's it for now. Rate, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.